mentioned alcohol, tobacco, cannabis or marijuana, and cat or mairunji. Now, there are others that are being popular now. They're increasing, like cocaine and amphetamines. They are present in this country, and many young people abusing these substances. There are others, depressants like heroin. Okay, this is also common. There are other prescription medicines like benzodiazepines. People call them Valium sometimes. Pethidine, codeine, the one for pain, is also commonly abused. And others, inhalants like aviation oil and glue. In one of the days, we're commemorating the World Day Against Drugs and Substances. We went to a certain place in Chisenyi. It was very disheartening to see 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 10-year-olds sniffing aviation fuel. Everyone had some form of a bottle. It was readily available in that place that a bottle top is sold at 500 shillings. And everyone there seemed intoxicated on aviation fuel or glue. So this is closer to us than we think. And if we don't do something about it, we'll have issues. There are others called hallucinogens. People call them magic mushroom or psilocybin. There are many street names, I think, that some of you know. Methamphetamines are called speed, crack, chicken feed. Yeah, interesting names. Ecstasy, sometimes called love drug, Adam diet pills. They have disco biscuits, Psilocybin called magic mushrooms, cocaine, they call it glass ice, sulfates, uppers, crack. So many names. Heroin is called smack, junk, menteca, horse. You may think this is, but I've treated people from this university who use these substances that I have mentioned. So what motivates people, young people, to indulge in substances of abuse? Sometimes it may be a motivation to identify with peers or to avoid rejection. Sometimes you come in and, probably trying to identify yourself and you want to fit in amongst the peers. And so you find that you are copying what the peers are doing or what your friends are doing. And you pick that. To some people, they use substances as a way of dealing with pain or anxiety or unhappiness. Because of the stresses that people are undergoing, maybe some of them are being abused. It could be family related, could be because of money, and they struggle with the stresses. So these substances, alcohol and other substances, can come in as a way of numbing the pain in order to forget these things. So some people end up, using substances like that. And we shall see later the link with stress and addiction as it may come. Sometimes it's maybe stress from change in roles or expectations as well. You may have different expectations in life, and so it changes, and you end up taking the drugs. Some people use these substances for recreation. I don't know what recreation is. So some people use it to just relax, feel good, and they do something. Others use it to stay alert. When I was younger, in a senior 2, that's many years ago, I used to have a very close friend of mine. So then the urge was to read and pass exams. I don't know who introduced this in school. I won't mention the school I was in then. But my friend started chewing cat. And the explanation he gave me then is that, when I chew this, I stay awake and I can read the whole night. It's very unfortunate that he took that trend. He eventually got addicted and he didn't finish school and is struggling somewhere now with addiction. But he started really young. I did not know what that was. I only was lucky that I did not. But it was my very good friend that we used to sleep in the same decker. We used to sleep down and was sleeping up. So this is how common these substances are in schools. I've heard stories in schools here where they are hawkers, people who intentionally bring some of these hard drugs like cocaine. So they first give you to test for free. Then the second time they give it to you because they know by the time you're taking the third dose, you will start to crave or you'll get hooked, if I may use that word. And once you get hooked, you will be a permanent customer and they make money. The people doing that, very unfortunate, and in our schools, they're targeting young minds, young people like you. Because once you're targeted young, once addiction starts or you start taking substance, once your brain is still growing, the chances of being addicted is very high than someone who starts taking it when they're old. So you're the primary targets. That's why the advertisements you see, social media, and all these things, they're looking for customers that they may have for life. And the young people like you are the primary targets. So there are stages of these things. You may wonder, how does someone get to addiction? Or how do they get to that point? It always starts with what? Testing and experiment. If you never experimented or never started, you will never be addicted to anything. So it starts with the experimental use. It can be for many reasons that we've mentioned. Others out of curiosity, others because of peer pressure and so on and so forth. So from experimentation, it goes to social use or occasional use. You not only use over the weekend, only drink over Fridays or Saturdays or when there is an occasion. Okay? From there, and then we may get to problem use. That when you use, it is so heavy and it happens more frequently. That either something happens, you spend all the money, you get an accident, you get in a fight, or you use so much that your body complains and you get intoxicated. So both the alcohol and all the other substances. Maybe you use so much that it affects the next day. And because of hangover, you cannot achieve some of the things you had planned to use. Remember, we started with an experiment. We went to social or regular use. Now we are developing a habit that once we go, even use so much, that is problematic. By the time you get to the habit, that's where we call you are addicted or dependence. So in all this journey, as you continue to take, there are some changes that occur in the brain. That your brain becomes rewired because these are chemicals, these are drugs. Okay? That your brain becomes rewired. That now it needs that substance to feel normal. Initially, when you take it, it disorganizes you. But as you continue taking, your brain adjusts and then it defines a new normal. That this new normal has the drug in it. So people who are addicted take the drug or the substance, not because they want, but they take to feel what? To feel normal. Because the brain has reset and there is a new normal. Because you're taking toxins in your body, you're taking substances. So your brain will adjust. All these things, every time you take it, causes release of certain chemicals in the brain. So as it causes a lot of it, your brain will sense, this is too much. Let me adjust to accommodate these things. So as it adjusts, it gets a new normal. It resets. Now, the event that this substance is not there, your brain is going to do what? To complain. You feel very uneasy. That's what they call withdrawal effect. Some of them get tremors if they've not taken, the body shakes. Others become restless, appetite goes away. Others get muscle aches or pains. In bad circumstances, they can even get convulsions. Irritable, it affects the mood and so on. That when you take the substance, now you feel okay. So that is why we say addiction is an illness. It is a mental illness because people look for the drug against their will. But two, there are significant chemical changes that have occurred in the brain that evades the person's ability to say no. Because by the time you're addicted, you know the problem, you know that is a problem, everybody sees it is a problem, but you cannot just stop. Why? Because the brain is rewired, as someone has said. So addiction is an illness. Is that clear? We started with, we went to, from social we went to problematic, habitual, and then we went to addiction. So it is a journey. Nobody wakes up one morning and they are addicted. It usually starts over time. Okay? It is a disease of development. Many times it starts early and it affects the young brain. When the brain, they say the brain develops up to the age of what? Up to the age of what? 21. So anyone under the age of 21, the brain is still, and a developing brain is very vulnerable to these substances because it will develop with the substance included in it. You get the point, eh? So you carry it into adulthood. It's very difficult to change. That's why we want to protect young people from indulging and getting involved in this. Some people experiment, but not all of them get addicted. Why? Why the discrepancy there? There are certain things that will push us to addiction. Some are within our control, others not within our control. Family history or genes. If you have a family member who has struggled with addiction or alcohol, you don't want to start testing these things. Because chances, and more so if it is a first generation relative, sibling, father, mother, sister, brother, and uncles, and so on. If you have a relative who is struggling, you've seen sometimes, and Ugandans use it loosely. You know that family is what? Is caste or something like that, right? But there are genetic problems that can be related, okay? If you have a mental health issue, dealing with stress, dealing with anxiety, dealing with depression, the brain is just looking for something that will support it. And so if you take alcohol when you are stressed, chances of being addicted is very high. As a take home, whenever you're stressed, do not take alcohol or substances as a way of dealing with your pain or stress. Because chances of being addicted during that time is very high. You will find yourself taking that direction even without thinking, okay? In circumstances or situations where environments do not control substance use, that is also a problem, where environments are very permissive, including parents and children that grow up where there is poor parental supervision. Sometimes that also increases chances of getting addicted. Having friends who use tobacco, alcohol, and other substances. Easy availability. I don't know if shops here have easy availability of these substances within, that you just walk and pick. That is also a motivating factor or an unenabling factor for addiction. Less strict laws on minimum drinking, and generally some cultures that accept. So these things influence. Okay. How do you know that someone is addicted? People who are addicted plan to take one bottle of alcohol and then they end up taking more than they planned. So you plan to take 2, you find you've taken 10. You plan to take one stick or whatever, you find you've taken the whole. So it's always more than intended. Okay. There is desire to cut down. The people actually plan to say, I'm going to stop. I really don't like this. So they struggle. They have constant struggle to cut down, but they fail. Okay. A great deal is spent either during getting the drug or recovering from the effects of the substance. So people who are addicted, they even abandon social roles, hobbies, and what all the time. Whatever activity they are doing, they are either helping them to get the drug or substance, or the next day they are recovering from the effects of the substance. So they abandon social roles and duties, education, and all these things that we initially knew them for. But they abandon all that in preference for what? For alcohol and the substances. They may have a craving that you just sit there and you feel like, I need to take these substances. Sometimes, as I mentioned, they are aware of all the negative consequences associated with this. But despite that, they cannot stop the substance, despite the knowledge of all these things. And then they also continue to take. You see, initially when you're starting, you'll probably take 2 bottles and you feel you are tipsy. Okay? Then you realize you're taking 5. You realize you're taking 10. You realize you're taking 20 in one sitting. This is called tolerance. So the body keeps on adjusting to accumulate more and more. Okay? And this cuts across for all the other substances. And then I mentioned the withdrawal symptoms. Because of those changes, if the levels of the substance go down, they get those symptoms. Some of them call them touches because of the shift, the tremors. They become restless, lose appetite, get irritable, muscle cramps and pains, diarrhea. But once they take the substance, they feel normal. So if you reach that point where you take the substance to feel normal, usually there is a problem. We need to prevent this as young people. Define your academic, spiritual, and career goals early enough. And remind yourself regularly how drug abuse and alcohol can derail your ambitions. You all must draw a plan. So without a plan, you may be derailed by substances. So you need to draw a plan and keep reflecting as you run your day-to-day affairs in schools. Surround yourself with friends who share similar values and make healthy lifestyle choices. Remember, your friends can influence you heavily. Avoid groups with friends that use alcohol or where alcohol and other substances are normalized, or it's a topic of discussion all the time. Run away, because peer influence can change your thinking and you may find yourself in that direction as well. Practice assertive communication. We call it self-efficacy. Build resilience. Learn to say no and mean it. Resist peer pressure, going by the wind, because you'll find yourself in the wrong groups. Join clubs where available, sports teams, fellowship, like Scripture Union, and all these things. Use your free time for hobbies, for constructive hobbies, so that you are not idle and not doing anything. So structure yourself. Educate yourself on the harmful effects of alcohol. So many people do not know that even shisha is harmful. And they take it to feel nice and feel cool in the club or in a bar. Educate yourself. You have a wealth of resources, social media, where find out what you're taking, how harmful is it to your health. Otherwise, you'll know when the chemicals have changed and your system is just running for it and you don't know why you're ending there. Okay? Limit time in places where alcohol or drug is common. Run away from any temptation that may come your way. Maintain regular participation in your faith or community. This provides moral guidance and social support. Social support is also good, and also accountability. Maintaining this linkage with your faith gives yourself accountability, and sometimes you may reflect and refrain from some of these substances. These are basic principles that you can use to avoid. But remember, as I mentioned, that when you're stressed, do not do what? Not to be tempted, avoid. Okay? For those that are sick, usually I'll just take you through how we treat those that are addicted. Normally, you want to break through the feelings of denial and help the person recognize the issues that they're dealing with. Because sometimes they're going through all that, but they also don't recognize it themselves. So that is the first step. You want to build the motivation of this person who is addicted to understand that they are addicted and also understand the problems that they're going through and accept to be supported, because that is usually the first step. The second is reversing the chemical processes that have occurred. That new normal, we reset it, we go back to the old normal. The process is called detoxification. This is done in a hospital setting many times for people who are addicted. And then finally, we go through rehabilitation, trying to change this person's, giving them a new meaning in life. Because many times addiction is a journey, and sometimes it is a